Congress is back in session with fewer than 7 weeks before a new House of Representatives and Senate is sworn in. Under Republican control, this has been the most unproductive House of Representatives in American history by all measures, which is why the American people voted the Republicans back in power. And to prove Republicans in the House are willing to tackle the big issues, a Republican-controlled House Oversight Subcommittee held hearings on Thursday entitled Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Exposing the Truth. If you're wondering what the words unidentified anomalous phenomena means, it's either UFOs or the stains Marjorie Taylor Greene leaves behind when she gets up from a leather armchair. Retired NASA and defense officials testified yesterday on whether our government is hiding secrets about visits from alien life forms. Terrific. Another wall Trump's going to try to build. Let me guess. He's going to make Kepler 45-2b pay for it. During these very important hearings, fresh off her re-election, Colorado's Grandmother of the Year, 37-year-old Lauren Boebert, asked sobering questions, not afraid to show off her command of quantum physics, biology, and, of course, organic chemistry. She showed it all off when she demanded that witnesses look into, quote-unquote, secret alien underwater military bases. Secret alien underwater military bases. Those are called submarines, you simpleton. She also demanded witnesses look into the distinct possibility our government is working with aliens to create hybrid humans with enhanced intellectual capabilities, which for Lauren Boebert would be the ability to solve the Wordle in Parade magazine. Now look, it's going to be okay. Germany was home to some of the greatest minds of the 20th century when Hitler took over. Yes, he surrounded himself with evil mental defects, but they were pretty smart. Don't flatter yourself, America. We're not turning into Nazi Germany. We're not smart enough. Once again, we're about to come up against stupid, lazy, incompetent grifters. I'm not saying they're not dangerous, but don't go wobbly on me. I attended a meeting of Indivisible last night where Senator Elizabeth Warren spoke. If you're wondering who Indivisible is, they're a grassroots organization that's been resisting Trump's policies since 2017. They mobilize nationally and locally, and they're one of the reasons Trump, except for the massive tax cut for the rich, accomplished very little, at least when it comes to policy. Indivisible saved Obamacare, so you might want to join Indivisible. Yes, there will be midterms in 2026. There will be a presidential election in 2028. Politics and the rule of law will save us. The Supreme Court is corrupt, but as Senator Elizabeth Warren said last night, our lower courts are filled with Obama and Biden appointees who will gum up the works. She also reminded everyone that Republicans have slim majorities in the House and Senate. Elizabeth Warren also said there are plenty of states with either Democratic governors, democratically controlled state legislatures, or like here in New York, both. I left the meeting realizing, yes, Trump is a fascist. He surrounds himself with loyalists and authoritarians. But that doesn't mean America is turning into Nazi Germany. Quite frankly, that's unoriginal thinking and cowardice. We do have power, more than they want us to believe. Join Indivisible. Heroes are being made each day. Be a hero. Yes, we need to grieve. There's a period of mourning, but it's self-indulgent to say it's over and I'm just going to retreat into myself. We lost. It's all over. That's self-indulgent. Now, you can't start saying it's everyone for themselves. That's what they want you to think. I understand why people are afraid, depressed, lonely, angry, and want to give up. That's only natural. Believe me, I'm with you. So perform your self-care, fall in love, or even better, love somebody unconditionally, and then get back into the fight. Trump didn't win. Democrats stayed home on Election Day. This is the mop-up for November 15th, 2024. I'm David Feldman in New York City. Thank you so much for finding me. Please like this episode and, of course, share it. The best way to help me and this community is to share these episodes. If you're scared, angry, depressed over this election, I want you to go work for the Democratic Party right now and do what I do. Do what I do. I'm having a great time because there's going to be a purge. There's going to be some finger pointing. Not quite yet, although I am going to do a little finger pointing right now. Now, I get 100 emails every day from the Democratic Party, from some candidate asking me for more money. So what I've been doing since November 5th is I write back. I say, sorry, fellas, little short on cash, but how do I volunteer? I have time to offer you. Guess how many responses I've gotten so far? Zero. Nobody wants my time, my passion, or commitment. They just want my money. Now, there will be finger pointing, but right now, every time you get a request for money from the Democrats, do what I do, write back. Sorry, fellas, a little short on cash, but I do have time. How do I volunteer? And the first candidate who responds gets my time and maybe some money. Kamala Harris, and again, we're all a raw nerve right now. So I'm about to say something that I don't want you to misunderstand. I thought Kamala Harris had 2 months to run a perfect campaign. She ran a perfect campaign. Over time, we'll come to learn that she listened too much to David Plouffe, and she listened too much to the centrists. She listened too much to Obama world, okay? Now, Kamala Harris's campaign raised $1 billion in 2 months. They're now $20 million in debt. It's time to start talking about money in this country. It's time to talk about money because that is what Democratic voters need, and it's why they stayed home on Election Day. And how you spend money reflects your values. A lot of that money, that $1 billion, was spent on raising more money. You would give money to the Democratic Party and they would turn it over to consultants who use that money to raise more money. How expensive is it to raise more money? How expensive is it to send out emails and process the donations? Why are you spending so much money on raising more money? Who the F is getting that money? They also spent $100,000 to rebuild the set of a podcast named Call Her Daddy. Now, somebody said I shouldn't bring this up because it has a whiff of misogyny. I don't think this is misogyny for me to bring up Call Her Daddy. Now, this is a podcast listened to by more women than any other podcast in America. And Kamala Harris wanted to talk to women, but she couldn't fly to be in LA with the host, Alex Cooper. So the Democrats said, well, we really want Kamala Harris to be on your show. We'll spend $100,000 and recreate the set of Call Your Daddy in a Washington, D.C. hotel room so Alex Cooper could fly in, interview Kamala Harris, and it would look like call her daddy's regular show from Los Angeles. Because why would you want to interview the vice president in her home? It would confuse your viewers. Why did Alex Cooper allow that? I understand how rabid and desperate the Democrats are to win. But why would Alex Cooper, the host of Call Her Daddy, say, yeah, okay, build the set, spend $100,000? Why didn't she say, spend it on the ground game or more advertising? I don't need my set. Values. How you spend money, how a government spends money, how a campaign spends money reflects values. So they rebuilt the set for $100,000 and the Democratic Party paid for it. Now, again, I'm going to bring up Oprah Winfrey, and somebody said to me, don't do it. You're going to sound like a misogynist. I don't think this is misogyny. Oprah's Harpo Productions was paid $1 million to help produce a campaign event or two. Now, she's denying, and there's a lie being spread that she took $1 million to endorse Kamala Harris. That's not true. According to the Hollywood Reporter, which looked over FEC filings, Harpo Productions, her company, was paid $1 million to help produce campaign events for the Democratic Party. This is precisely why Donald Trump went into politics. You can raise and then waste hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, and nobody cares. The difference between the Democratic Party and Donald Trump is Trump keeps all the money for himself. He said, I don't need Bruce Springsteen, Bon Jovi, Bradley Whitford, Tony Goldwyn. Tell them to stay home. I'm not paying for their airfare or their hotels. I'm not paying for their road crew. Bruce Springsteen, Bon Jovi, Bradley, they didn't get paid to appear at those rallies. But they were flown in. They were put up in a hotel. There were caterers. There's a road crew. And this is, I believe, partly why Democratic voters stayed home. Now, we can argue whether or not celebrities and rich people dominate the Democratic Party. We can argue that. Can't argue math. Can't argue math. Okay? Yes, there was insane energy in the room when Coach Waltz and Kamala Harris got on stage, when Bon Jovi, when Bruce Springsteen, Beyonce, when they took it didn't translate into votes. For some reason, and let me know why, I'm at a loss as to why billionaire Mark Cuban warming up the crowd for Kamala Harris doesn't seem to resonate with the working class. Poor people just don't respond to Mark Cuban, the billionaire. Doesn't seem to resonate. I have no idea why. Leave a comment. Maybe you can edify me. Here's an idea for the Democratic Party. The midterms are right around the corner. You'll be amazed how quickly 2028 comes around. And yes, there will be an election. Next time the Democrats decide to hold a big rally, instead of musicians, instead of billionaires, instead of celebrities who are worth $500 million, instead of paying their airfare, their hotels, the caterer, you got to pay the roadies for Bruce Springsteen, even though he did an acoustic set. There's a lot of money to be spent. Instead, spend it on food drives for the poor or the working poor. Whoever gets the nomination next time, Rent that big hall. Fill it. And tell Democrats, come on in and bring cans of food and clothing for people who are hurting. And in the parking lot outside the rally, ask all the doctors, dentists, and auto mechanics who support their Democratic candidates, ask them to set up shop in the parking lot. Give them tents and have them repair busted taillights so cops don't have a reason to pull over a person of color and place them into a permanent cycle of debt with bench warrants and fines that are impossible to pay. You got your dentist, clean some teeth. You got some lawyers, give out free legal advice. You got doctors, check some lymph nodes. Feed people. Voters don't want rich people telling them how to vote. Democratic voters, the ones who stayed home, they want rich people to shut their effing mouths and pay their fair share of taxes. Now, I said I wasn't going to point fingers, but I've been saying for years that there needs to be a purge of the Democratic Party. If Mark Cuban, the billionaire, wants to vote as a Democrat, thank you. You're welcome to vote for a Democrat, but you don't get a seat at the table. George Clooney, Jeffrey Katzenberg, you don't dictate the trajectory of a party that purportedly represents the poor and the working class. Shut your effing mouth, Rob Reiner. You want to vote for Democrats? Give money, but shut your effing mouth. Otherwise, we're going to have another 2024. Pay your taxes and shut the F up. Hi. Matt Gaetz, Florida congressman and possible sex trafficker of young girls, has been nominated for Attorney General. Well, I guess Jeffrey Epstein is still somehow advising Donald Trump. Republican Congressman Mike Simpson of Idaho was asked by Politico if he thought his Republican colleague Matt Gaetz was qualified to be Attorney General. Republican Congressman Mike Simpson responded, quote, "Are you shitting me? That you just asked me that question? No, but hell, you print that and now I'm going to be investigated." Best quote of the week. She was a high school student. I'll have more on the Gaetz nomination later on in the show. But the lawyer for the girl who is the focus of this ethics probe into Matt Gaetz, the lawyer told the Miami Herald she was a high school student and there were witnesses. I don't think he's going to be Attorney General, and I don't think it's worth dignifying. So I'm going to talk about it at the end of the show. It's an example of what's in store for us, the incompetence. Now, Ezra Klein of the New York Times wrote of picks like Matt Gaetz or this guy, Hesketh, for defense. This is what Ezra Klein over the New York Times wrote, quote, "These aren't just appointments, they're loyalty tests." Do you really think Donald Trump is picking Gaetz or Hesketh because they're the most qualified? Ron Brownstein over at The Atlantic Magazine said this is not a serious idea, picking Matt Gaetz or Hesketh. He wrote, quote, "Trump has shown he understands a cardinal rule of strongman dominance. Constantly force your allies to defend the indefensible and to make ever greater concessions they once would have considered beyond the pale. Each surrender paves the way for the next. Gaetz is just an opening bid." See, this is what, it's a brilliant piece by Brownstein in the Atlantic Magazine. Trump is pushing his allies to defend the indefensible. He's breaking the party. Gaetz knew he was in trouble, and by elevating him to a possible attorney general pick, Trump is helping Gaetz. In order for Gaetz can now say these charges against me are all political. Gaetz, I don't imagine he's going to be the attorney general. He needs a lawyer. But this is how Trump throws red meat to the hard right while at the same time controlling the news cycle. We're talking Matt Gaetz. We're looking over there when we should be looking over here. So I'm going to talk about Matt Gaetz. This is a shiny object. Trump is very savvy. He wants everybody talking about Matt Gaetz. Well, I made the mistake of combining alcohol and Ambien. That's the excuse House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman, Republican Mike McCall, gave to the media after he was arrested for disorderly conduct at Washington, D.C.'s Dulles International Airport the night before the election. The night before the election, he was mixing Ambien and alcohol. This is a Republican combining Ambien and alcohol the night before the election. He started celebrating earlier than most everybody else. I guess he was looking at way more accurate polls than I was. If you're already mixing the alcohol and the Ambien, there's reason to celebrate. Speaking of alcoholics, Rudy Giuliani's lawyer isn't an alcoholic, but Rudy Giuliani is, and that's probably why Rudy Giuliani's lawyer quit. Kenneth A. Caruso, who was representing Giuliani in that defamation lawsuit filed by 2 Georgia election workers, Kenneth A. Caruso told the judge in that case he can no longer represent Rudy Giuliani because he said Rudy repeatedly asked him to violate legal professional standards. And by violate legal professional standards, he means not getting paid. Rudy doesn't pay his lawyers. That's what this is about. Giuliani is supposed to turn over all his worldly possessions to those 2 Georgia election workers after he was hit with a $150 million judgment for defaming them. He continues to hide his assets from them. There is a distinct possibility that without a lawyer, Rudy could end up in contempt and jailed. He's been warned. After his lawyer fired him, Rudy said, quote, "They have seized all my money, which wasn't much. I need legal representation against these evil people." The 2 election workers are evil people. Interesting. Another defamation lawsuit. And then he added, "I can't buy food." Rudy can't buy food. Somehow there's money for 3 gallons of scotch each day, but Rudy doesn't have any money for food. Rudy Giuliani can't buy food. The former mayor of New York City who made it illegal for black people to leave their homes, who instigated an insurrection on January 6th, now says he can't buy food. And yet my friends keep asking, why aren't you depressed over the election? Because Rudy Giuliani can't buy food. That makes me very happy that Rudy Giuliani can't buy food. You know where there's food? In prison. President Biden and Donald Trump met in the Oval Office for 2 hours on Wednesday. You see this over here? Let me go big here. Right there, that's a bust of Bobby Kennedy, whose head is 97% copper, just like Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s. Donald Trump announced that Bobby Kennedy Jr. will be nominated to destroy health and human services. He's going to head HHS. You know, his mother, Ethel, would be so glad that she's no longer alive to see this. This is who's going to be heading HHS. This is what he tweeted on October 25th. He had assured voters that he was taking over HHS. And one thing about Donald Trump, he keeps his promise. This is what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said on Twitter. FDA's war on public health is about to end. This includes its aggressive suppression of psychedelics. Really? Bobby Kennedy sure seems to have no problem getting his hands on those psychedelics. Peptides, stem cells, raw milk, hyperbaric therapies. You mean the thing that Michael Jackson used to do? Chelating compounds. Yes. Ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine. Remember that? Horse paste is ivermectin, and hydroxychloroquine is the stuff you put in your fish tank. Vitamins, clean foods, sunshine, exercise, nutraceuticals, and anything else that advances human health and can't be patented by pharma. Really? The FDA has declared war on clean food, sunshine, exercise? Really? Then he writes, if you work for the FDA and are part of this corrupt system, I have two messages for you. Preserve your records and pack your bags. Wow. This is going to be an interesting nomination process. I didn't know that there was a war on sunshine, exercise. There should be a war on ivermectin and hydrochloroquine. We're all going to die. The Daily Beast reports that RFK Jr. is appalled by Trump's eating habits. Why? Because Trump likes his bear meat deep fried? You don't approve? What do you like, boiled bear meat, Bobby? The Daily Beast reports that Kennedy said on a podcast, quote, the stuff that Donald Trump eats is really bad. Campaign food is always bad, but the food that goes onto that airplane, onto Trump's airplane, is poison. You have a choice between, well, you don't have a choice. You're either given KFC or Big Macs. That's like when you're lucky. And then the rest of the stuff I consider kind of inedible. Dana White, the union-busting owner of UFC, told Kennedy that he's sat next to Trump on flights that lasted several hours, and he said, I never once saw Donald Trump drink a glass of water. I guess Dana White's confused. Donald Trump doesn't drink the glass of water. Vladimir Putin drinks a glass of water, and it's Trump's lips that move. I guess Dana White doesn't understand how ventriloquism works. Trump's communication director, Stephen Chung, responded to Kennedy. Another reason I'm not depressed about these election results. Trump's communication director, Stephen Chung, responded to Kennedy's criticism of Donald Trump's eating habits, telling reporters, quote, Donald Trump is the healthiest eating person ever to sit in the Oval Office, and that includes President Howard Taft, period. He didn't say that, but he thought it. You ask me why I'm optimistic, why I have hope? You're looking at it. Stephen Chung. I'm going to make a meal out of him. Pete Hegseth, Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense, is under fire this morning after a 2017 accusation of sexual misconduct has surfaced. Of course there's an accusation of sexual misconduct. He works for Fox News. That's the prerequisite for landing a job there. Before getting hired, they check your resume and your rap sheet. Vanity Fair reports that Trump's incoming chief of staff, Susie Wiles, was briefed on the allegations, Some are saying this might jeopardize Hegseth's chances of becoming our Secretary of Defense. That, and he's completely unqualified. And he's got a gigantic tattoo on his chest that's linked to a hard right militia. Again, this is Trump's communication director and part-time underwear model for Abercrombie & Fitch, Stephen Chung. Nobody's ever accusing this guy of sexual misconduct or sexual conduct, for that matter. Although, and I probably shouldn't go here, there were allegations made about Stephen Chung. There are rumors that something happened inside an airport restroom in Minneapolis. Now, again, this is strictly innuendo and rumor about Stephen Chung. But people are saying an undercover cop staking out an airport restroom in Minneapolis looking for deviant male behavior. This undercover cop inside the Minneapolis airport restroom reportedly caught Stephen Chung repeatedly propositioning several young men in the restroom, offering them money to help him put together a toilet seat he had just shattered. Anyway, Stephen Chung, Donald Trump's communications director, after he was told of these new allegations against Pete Hegseth, Stephen Chung put down the orphan burger he was eating and said, quote, President Trump is nominating high caliber and extremely qualified candidates to serve in his administration. Stephen Chung went on to say, he did say that. He wasn't eating an orphan burger. But he said, Mr. Hegseth, this is what he really said. He said, Mr. Hegseth has vigorously denied any and all accusations and no charges were filed. Chung said, we look forward to his confirmation as United States Secretary of Defense so he can get started on day one to make America safe and great again. Day one. Yes, on January 20th, on day one, Stephen Chung will hit the ground running out of Fritos chili cheese flavored corn chips. He's going to hit the ground running out of Fritos chili cheese flavored corn chips. Hey, we don't need to be politically correct anymore. The American people have spoken. There was speculation that Trump was going to name New Jersey strip mall lawyer Alina Habba as his White House spokesperson. Habba put those rumors to rest yesterday, telling reporters, quote, and she did say this, I'm not making this up, although I love screaming from a podium, I will be better served in other capacities. I love this. I will be better served in other capacities. I will be better served. Not America will be better served. Not Trump will be better served. I will be better served in other capacities. Well, as Trump's communications director, Stephen Chung, once said, some are born to serve. Sorry. Hang on for 1 second. As Donald Trump's communications director, Stephen Chung, once said, some are born to serve others. Others are born to be served pancakes. Rudy Giuliani can't afford food. Where am I? Senator Lara Trump. Well, 8 years ago, I said President Donald Trump. So why not Senator Lara Trump? I mean, as long as we're destroying the country. With Florida Senator Marco Rubio expected to be confirmed as Trump's Secretary of State, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is getting pressure to replace Rubio with someone completely unqualified for the job. Newly reelected Florida Senator and imbecile Rick Scott is urging Ron DeSantis to appoint the imbecile wife of imbecile Eric Trump. That would be Lara Trump. That would be the imbecile Donald Trump's daughter-in-law to fill Marco Rubio's seat. Lara Trump was appointed co-chair of the Republican Party this year. Before marrying Eric Trump, Lara was a story coordinator for the hard-hitting PBS documentary series Frontline. I'm sorry, I meant to say Inside Edition. Like she's ever seen Frontline. Do you love me now, Daddy? Do you love me now? I know I stopped talking to you after you left Mommy for Marla Maples. But then I realized you're the only one stupid enough to ever hire me. So I forgave you. Do you love me now, Daddy? That's my imitation of Donald Trump Jr. Donald Trump Jr. was instrumental in his father's decision to pick J.D. Vance as his running mate. With Jared Kushner now out of the picture, supposedly, Jr. is way more influential this time around, especially when it comes to staffing the White House. Jr. said that he has no intention of going to work inside the White House. Well, I don't think that's a possibility. He couldn't get security clearance from the FBI. I think you have to pee inside a cup, and they check to see what's in there. I don't think Don Jr. is going to want to pee inside a cup for the FBI. Instead, Jr. said he would take a hands-on approach to ensure that only Trump loyalists are going to be hired. Well, we are now learning that Jr.'s pick for Director of White House Personnel has been chosen. Sergio Gore, who runs the right-wing publishing house, it's called Winning Team Publishing, he will be doing the hiring over at the Trump White House. Gore published Don Jr.'s book. I think Don Jr.'s written several books, and Gore published them, probably wrote them as well, and read them. And it is believed he is going to be running all White House staffing past Jr. Personnel, not the cabinet, but the underlings. It's all going through Jr. first. The New York Times reports that Jr. seen here asking J.D. Vance what it's like to work for someone other than your rich father. The New York Times reports that Jr. has accepted a partnership with the venture capital firm 1789. That's the name of the venture capital firm. So Jr. is going to get into the exciting world of defrauding venture capitalists. Well, Jr. is great with money. He is. If you need a $20 bill rolled up and placed on a mirror, Donald Trump Jr. is your go-to guy. So what is 1789? Well, it invests in right-wing businesses like Tucker Carlson's media company. Well, there we go. How old is Don Jr.? He's in his 40s, right? Finally, somebody hired him other than his father. And I'm sure they want nothing in return. The same way Saudi Arabia gave Jared Kushner $2 billion to invest, and they wanted nothing in return. And they have certainly gotten nothing in return, at least on their investment. The New York Times reported in September, we talked about this, that Saudi Arabia wrote a $2 billion check to Jared Kushner back in 2021, and they said, invest our money. In 3 years, it's been 3 years since he got the $2 billion check, Kushner took $112 million out of that $2 billion to pay himself fees, but has failed to invest any of that money or show anything as much as a dividend. It hasn't even been, you put $2 billion into the bank. I don't know. What is interest? What do you get? 3%? 5%? What's 5% of $2 billion? What is that? 600 million a year? I don't know. Do the math. Let me know in the comments section. Saudi Arabia hasn't gotten anything. Not even interest payments. Senator Ron Wyden, Democratic chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, opened an investigation earlier this year after the New York Times initial report on Jared Kushner not making any money for Saudi Arabia. Senator Wyden said in September that Saudi Arabia may not be motivated by commercial considerations by giving Jared the $2 billion. That he's saying Saudi Arabia may not want a return on that investment. He says maybe they just welcome an opportunity to funnel foreign government money to President Trump's family, namely Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump. But why? I don't understand. Why would Saudi Arabia want to funnel money to Trump's family? Donald Trump can't be bought. Certainly, it would be, there's an emoluments clause, isn't there? That it's in the Constitution. You can't accept money from a foreign government. He would never do that. The Onion, without a doubt, the funniest satirical news organization of the past 30 years, is now the owner of Alex Jones's InfoWars, the second funniest satirical news organization of the past 30 years. There was a time when I enjoyed Alex Jones. This must have been, 20 years ago. I would watch him and go, this guy's great. I did. I thought, he's not going to get that big. You might recall Alex Jones defaulted on a defamation lawsuit filed by families of the Sandy Hook school massacre after he repeatedly claimed the shooting was a false flag operation staged by the Obama administration to build public support for taking away our guns. Jones declared bankruptcy, claiming he couldn't pay the $1.5 billion judgment, so InfoWars was put up for auction. The sale price is going to the Sandy Hook families. Some had feared that a right-wing white knight would step in and buy the company and then hire Alex Jones. But instead, Twilio's co-founder, Jeff Lawson, who also owns The Onion, he ended up with the highest bid. Lawson's purchase seems to have been secured partly by billionaire Michael Bloomberg, whose anti-gun group, Everytown USA, promised to begin advertising on the new iteration of InfoWars if The Onion took it over. It's kind of poetic justice, right? According to Oliver Darcy, who writes over at Status, which covers the media, The Onion will now own InfoWars' website, its social media accounts, its mailing list, as well as its inventory of all those nutritional supplements that Alex Jones tries to get his idiot listeners to buy. Makes a lot of money off those nutritional supplements. And I guess they get, the broadcasting equipment. Marjorie Taylor Greene was no stranger to Alex Jones or InfoWars. Instead, she's a stranger to deodorant and mouthwash. At least that's what I hear. That's what people are saying. That's what I hear me saying. Well, she loved to appear on InfoWars. Marjorie Taylor Greene was hoping to be the head of Homeland Security. Instead, that job went to dog killer Kristi Noem. So now Marjorie Taylor Greene insists, quote, Mr. Trump says I can better serve him by staying in Congress and away from him. I don't think Donald. That's what I'm hearing. That's what people are saying, that the smell. That's how you know someone smells bad, when even Donald Trump thinks you stink. Now, I don't know if this is true. Somebody should look into it. It's what I've heard me just say, so we should look into it. But what I've heard is that Marjorie Taylor Greene has this sulfuric odor. I've heard that kissing Marjorie Taylor Greene is like kissing Satan's gluteus maximus hole. That's what I've heard me just say. I don't know if it's true, but that's what I've heard me say. What I hear me saying, and people should look into it, what I hear is kissing Marjorie Taylor Greene is like kissing Satan's gluteus maximus hole. I just came up with that before the show. The gluteus maximus hole. Should I make a coffee mug that says, kiss my gluteus maximus hole? Or am I insane? Well, I'm insane. I'm insane. I shouldn't be this happy and optimistic. But Rudy Giuliani can't afford food. There is a God. There is a God. Rudy Giuliani can't afford food. Prayer, you see, I believe in prayer. Rudy Giuliani can kiss my gluteus maximus hole. Should we? I think that might be I'm delusional. Let's go big here, shall we? Fresh off shepherding Donald Trump's victory, campaign manager Chris LaCivita posted this picture of himself on Twitter yesterday with the words, on top of the mountain. Now, from what I can tell from this picture, LaCivita is either hunting, that could be a hunting picture, or more likely, he's dating his twin sister again. That could be his twin sister lying in the grass with him, or he's hunting. I don't know. Somebody should tell his wife. This is the mop-up for November 15th, 2024. I'm David Feldman in New York City. Thank you so much for finding me. Please like this episode so I remain in your feed. Please share it. The best way to help me is to share these episodes so we can build our community. And then go over to shopdavidfeldman.com and buy crap that you don't need. Like, here's Cassidy modeling my Still a Democrat t-shirt. You can also get it on a mug, or you can get Donald Trump. I love this one, in Edvard Munch's The Scream. But most importantly, Thanksgiving is coming up. Why not get a chef's apron with the words, hope you're in the mood for diarrhea? Again, it's my big seller. It's pretty much the only thing my listeners buy. Somebody made me laugh really hard. They bought a worst case scenario mug, which my longtime listeners know about, where I prove that Kamala will get to 270. And somebody bought it yesterday, and they wrote to me and they said, I still have hope. I don't know if I should repeat. In the chat room, the first show I did, after I don't know, this is rough, but it made me laugh really hard. So, I read the chat, I read your comments, and we were all depressed after November 5th, my first show back. I'm looking through the chat room, and somebody wrote, "I'm so glad I have cancer." That's my sentence. Whoever did that, I don't know who you are, but that made me, like I read that, I went, was I in the chat room? Did I write that? Oh, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. U.S. District Judge Rudolph Contreras, an Obama appointee, and Trump appointee Judge Carl Nichols, both ruled on Thursday that they would postpone future January 6 trials until after Donald Trump's inauguration. Despite objections from the Biden Justice Department, the two judges decided that it's a waste of time and money to begin seating juries only to discover that Trump would then issue blanket pardons for the defendants. This is how you defeat fascism. This is how my father helped win World War II. Why fight? There's a good chance Hitler is going to win. Politico reports that Judge Contreras, and this is an Obama appointee, Judge Contreras said, quote, "I'm focused on conservation of the resources of the parties, the court, and citizens." Good on you. According to Politico, Obama appointee, U.S. District Judge Paul Friedman turned down a request from other January 6 defendants who asked that they delay their trials be delayed to see if they can get a pardon from Donald Trump. Judge Paul Friedman wrote late Wednesday night, quote, "Whatever the president-elect may or may not do with respect to some of those convicted for their conduct at the Capitol on January 6, 2021, that is irrelevant to this court's independent obligations and legal responsibilities under Article 3 of the Constitution." Well, if you're going to go by the Constitution, this is why there are judges. Elizabeth Warren spoke yesterday at this meeting of Indivisible, and she said most decisions never make it to the Supreme Court, that it's the lower courts that gum up the works and will make it impossible for Project 2025 to kick in. So, but you got to fight. You got to call out people like Judge Rudolph Contreras. You got to fight. But this is why nobody should be scared. Here's why you should be scared. Donald Trump picked Tulsi Gabbard as his director of national intelligence. Gabbard has blamed Russia's invasion of Ukraine on America and NATO. I didn't know that. I haven't been following the news too closely. I didn't know that NATO and the United States invaded Ukraine. Why don't you blame Ukraine for Russia's invasion of Ukraine? Did Ukraine invade Ukraine? The Atlantic magazine's Tom Nichols called Gabbard, quote, "an apologist for Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad." Well, to be fair, she did visit with him, but she was asked, is he a good person? And she said flat out, no. So I report the truth here. She was asked, is Assad a good guy? And she said, no. He's a great guy. No, she said he's a bad guy. Trump's defense lawyer, Todd Blanche, should be disbarred. The New York State Bar Association should take away his law license. He is Trump's pick for deputy attorney general. He should, the New York State Bar, there's no way This is ethical. Blanche is going to be the number 2 in the Justice Department. Good news for our next Attorney General, Matt Gaetz, because he's going to need a really good defense lawyer. Unfortunately, actually, Todd Blanche, not a good defense lawyer. Not a good defense lawyer. Blanche represented Trump in the Manhattan criminal trial, which was considered, of all 4 criminal trials, the weakest cheese. Todd Blanche lost it. Trump was found guilty. And now he's going to be Deputy Attorney General. He's going to be the second in command of our Justice Department. He had no conflict of interest. Donald Trump's defense lawyer is going to be the number 2 guy inside the Justice Department, possibly the Attorney General, because I don't think Matt Gaetz is even going to make it to the hearings. I think he needs to lawyer up. I think that lawyer for the high school girl is, I know the Justice Department dropped the investigation, but Matt Gaetz's best friend is doing time for pretty much what I think Matt Gaetz needs a lawyer. I don't think Trump needs an attorney general so much as Matt Gaetz needs a lawyer. Why is Todd Blanche not being disbarred? The New York State Bar, I will get why don't your grown-ups Google the New York State Bar and let's begin a letter writing campaign demanding that they disbar Todd Blanche. This is unacceptable. The President of the United States, his defense lawyer, is like they're just getting rid of all pretense that the Justice Department is going to be anything other than Donald Trump's personal law firm. At least Bill Barr pretended. Bloomberg reports Trump may nominate Andrew Puzder for Secretary of Labor. Remember Andrew Puzder? Trump wanted him in his first term back in 2017, but withdrew his name after reports surfaced of his wife accusing him of domestic abuse, and he had an undocumented housekeeper. Undocumented housekeeper, and he's going to be the Secretary of Labor, and they're going to deport the undocumented workers. Do you really think they're going to deport these undocumented people? I think they're going to be shows of force. I think one of the reasons Homan was picked as border czar is because he's so scary. I think Stephen Miller is scary, and I think they're going to destroy lives. I think it's going to be terror, and lives will be destroyed. But do you think, let me know in the comment section, do you think big business is going to say, sure, get rid of 14 million people? That makes good economic sense. Do you think corporate America is going to allow that? I hope not. We have to pressure them. Puzder is the former CEO of Burger King's parent company, and that's who you want making labor policy. The guy who doesn't want to raise the minimum wage. In January, how are we doing on time? In January, it looks like Republicans will hold a 53-47 majority. And this week they went ahead and elected their Senate Majority Leader. South Dakota Republican John Thune will be the new Majority Leader. Thune was elected to the Senate in 2004, defeating South Dakota Democrat Tom Daschle. Pay attention to this, please. Tom Daschle was also Senate Majority Leader for the Democrats. South Dakota Senator Tom Daschle. He was the Senate Majority Leader when Congress granted George W. Bush the war authorization to invade Iraq. After he lost, in 2004, he became a lobbyist. This is a bad guy. Democratic Senator Tom Daschle, lobbyist. Do you know why we sent troops to Iraq? Because Tom Daschle in 2002 was Senate Majority Leader, Democrat, and he trusted George W. Bush, and he and the Democrats voted for the war authorization. You see, this is why family fights can be much angrier. I expect Dick Cheney and George W. Bush to lie, to be stupid, to be war criminals. But when my party, when Tom Daschle, Democratic Senate Majority Leader, tells the Senate, give George W. Bush the war authorization in Iraq, I'm angrier at Tom Daschle in many ways because he didn't do his job. He didn't protect our troops or the people of Iraq. You want to know who has blood on their hands for Iraq? Tom Daschle. Great toupee, though. One of the best toupees in Washington. Seriously. That's one of the best toupees. He's a genius with that toupee. And now he's a lobbyist. He could have stopped the invasion of Iraq. I don't want to beat up on Democrats, but this is, you've got to, how did we get here? How did we get here? Take a look at Tom Daschle. All he had to do was his job. Even Nancy Pelosi voted against the war authorization for Iraq. Where am I? Now he's a lobbyist. We should have letter campaigns to lobbyists as well. Just send 100 letters to Tom Daschle, just saying, I hope you enjoy cashing those checks in hell because you could have stopped the war in Iraq, but you didn't. Anyway, John Thune is the new Senate Majority Leader. He defeated Trump's favorite, Florida Senator Rick Scott. Did I ever mention that Rick Scott owned a chain of hospitals and stole about $1 billion from Medicaid and Medicare? His company received, at the time, the largest health care fine from the DOJ in the history of the DOJ. At the time, it was the largest health care fine. And he's a D-bag. He wants to sunset Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps every 5 years and just have Congress vote on whether or not we want to renew these programs that he stole from. He was Donald Trump's pick to be Senate Majority Leader, but it was secret ballot, so Trump didn't know who to have physically threatened. People could hide behind a secret ballot. Thune was Mitch McConnell's pick. He won the second round of voting, defeating Texas Senator John Cornyn. Scott was out. Rick Scott was out after the first round because everyone hates him. Everyone hates him. Thune waited until the end of February of this year to finally endorse Trump. When it was just Nikki Haley, he finally endorsed Trump. He's a McConnell guy. After the January 6th insurrection, Thune refused to join 147 Republicans who all voted not to certify the election for Joe Biden. Thune voted to certify, unlike Mike Johnson, who back then was a backbencher pushing the stolen election lie, wrote the amicus brief for Texas's lawsuit to overturn the results in Pennsylvania. Well, the GOP has officially gained control of the House of Representatives because in America, and don't kid yourself, we reward failure in this country. We reward failure. That's why Donald Trump is going to be president again. The House picks their new speaker in January. On Wednesday, the Republican caucus nominated Mike Johnson for Speaker. The vote was taken immediately after Donald Trump officially endorsed him in person. He officially endorsed Mike Johnson for Speaker. Before meeting with Joe Biden on Wednesday, Trump met with Republicans on Capitol Hill, and he said, quote, "I suspect I won't be running again unless you say he's so good, we've got to figure something else," unquote. And they all laughed. That's how authoritarians work. First it starts with a joke, just floating the idea. New York Congressman, Democrat Dan Goldman said it's not a joke. He immediately filed a resolution demanding Congress vote to affirm the 22nd Amendment, which prevents presidents from serving more than 2 terms. He said it's not a joke. I want to see the vote on this. The GOP caucus also voted to make life easier for Johnson or whomever is elected Speaker by requiring 9 members instead of just 1 to call a vote to vacate the chair. You might recall Speaker Kevin McCarthy had to step down because of what he called the Crazy 8. It was 8 Republicans who voted to toss him out. Now you need 9. Steve Scalise was reelected as House Majority Leader. He dropped out of the race for Speaker last year after failing to secure enough Republican votes. Minnesota Congressman Tom Emmer was reelected as Majority Whip, and right there is Emmer's whip, right there, but it's the one used on Emmer when he visits his Uncle Jim's sex dungeon. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. But he definitely needs the whip. What did he do? Did he lose some weight here? Get a new belt. Jesus. Michigan Congresswoman Lisa McClain was elected House Republican Conference Chair. That job belonged to New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who has been tapped to serve as UN ambassador. CNN reports Stefanik's office refused to comment as to whether she still believes support for Ukraine is critical for regional stability. Stefanik's office also refused to say whether she still supported Ukraine's NATO membership. Big proponent of Ukraine joining NATO. She refused to comment on whether she still thinks Russia commits genocide in Ukraine. The only thing she said to CNN was, "Can I just burnish my resume without you people hounding me?" Moscow Marjorie Taylor Greene told reporters on Wednesday that Speaker Johnson assured her there will be no more aid going to Ukraine. Okay, let's talk about Matt Gaetz, nominated for Attorney General. Well, it gave him an excuse. The nomination gave him an excuse to quit Congress just days before the ethics report on him was scheduled to be released. By all accounts, especially from the Miami Herald, it was a highly damaging ethics report. Trump, I don't think, expects Gaetz to make it to Attorney General. He was giving Gaetz a graceful exit from Congress because, as former Speaker Kevin McCarthy has said repeatedly, Matt Gaetz belongs in prison. Again, the Justice Department decided not to press charges on Gaetz, but that doesn't mean there won't be a civil lawsuit. She was a high school student. John Clune, the lawyer for the girl who is at the center of this probe, urged the House Ethics Committee to release the report, saying she was a high school student and there are witnesses. But House Ethics Chair Michael Gaetz, Republican from Mississippi, said he's not going to release the report since Matt Gaetz has left Congress, so it's no longer relevant. Politico reports that since Gaetz has quit Congress and since the Justice Department dropped its investigation, the House Ethics Committee sees no need to continue the investigation and no need to release the report. Mississippi Congressman Mike Gaetz, who's chairman of the House Ethics Committee, said, quote, "What happens in ethics is confidential. We're going to maintain that confidentiality." That would be Mississippi Congressman Michael Gaetz. Looks like the kind of guy I'd be perfectly okay with taking my son and a bunch of his friends on a scouting trip in the woods. I would have no problem with this guy being a scoutmaster and taking my son into the woods. Upon hearing that Matt Gaetz was going to be Trump's pick for Attorney General, Speaker Mike Johnson said, "Yeah, that caught us by surprise a little bit." Republican Don Bacon of Nebraska said to reporters about Matt Gaetz, "I got really no good comment." This is true. But Kentucky Republican Congressman Thomas Massie said, "He's the Attorney General. Suck it up." Thomas Massie says Trump shouldn't wait for the Senate to approve Gaetz as Attorney General. He's saying Trump should make Gaetz acting Attorney General through a process known as recess appointments. Yeah, recess appointments. Given that it was a high school girl, not sure if Gaetz and the word recess should be used in the same sentence. Maine Republican Senator Susan Collins said, "I was shocked at the nomination. I'm sure there will be many, many questions raised at Mr. Gaetz's hearing." This is the same woman who voted not to impeach Donald Trump after January 6th because he learned his lesson, she said. Alaska Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski said, "We need a serious attorney general. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to consider somebody that is serious. This one was not on my bingo card." South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, who sits on the Senate Judiciary Committee, said, "I don't know yet. I have to think about that one. We'll see." North Dakota Republican Senator Kevin Cramer said, to be honest, I was thinking about the FBI background check. It's pretty intense for Attorney General. Yeah, those background checks are pretty intense. That's why Don Jr. isn't taking a job in the White House. You have to pee into a cup. And from what I hear, he's pee shy. He doesn't like peeing into a cup. Republican Congressman Max Miller of Ohio told reporters, "I'm surprised that Matt Gaetz would do this to himself. I want to go get a big bag of popcorn and pull up a front row seat to that show." Little schadenfreude from Max Miller, Republican Congressman of Ohio, enjoying Matt Gaetz's humiliation. Well, I got a bag of popcorn to enjoy Max Miller's divorce from the daughter of soon-to-be freshman Republican Senator from Ohio, Bernie Moreno. Married for only 2 years, Moreno's daughter moved out of the house that she shared with Congressman Max Miller, and she told the judge, "I don't want him to be alone with our baby." The couple They were wedded at, or was, a couple was wedded. They were married at Donald Trump's Bedminster, New Jersey golf club, where the former president delivered a toast. Before running for Congress, Max Miller was a senior advisor in that adjudicated rapist's Oval Office. He worked for the adjudicated rapist, Donald Trump. Stephanie Grisham was President Trump's third press secretary. In her book, she says she met Max Miller in the White House and they began dating. Grisham now alleges that Miller slapped her in the face and became physically abusive after she accused him of cheating. Wow, somebody working in the Donald Trump White House physically abusing a woman. That doesn't sound like somebody Donald Trump would hire. It sounds like everybody Donald Trump would hire. Congressman Miller, after Grisham's book was published back in August of 2023, where she accused him of physically assaulting her, he immediately filed a defamation lawsuit. Because, these Republicans, they hate trial lawyers. I'm suing you for defamation. But for some reason, right before that defamation case was about to go to trial in September 2023, for some reason, Miller dropped it. I don't understand. Why wouldn't Max Miller want to clear his good name? I mean, if an old girlfriend of mine wrote a book saying I slapped her in the face and I was physically abusive, I'd sue her. Especially if I'm a United States congressman, because all we really have is our name and reputation. Unless you're Max Miller, who also has probably $100 million from his parents. But, his name and reputation is just as important as the $100 million that he's going to inherit from his parents. I can't believe he allowed Stephanie Grisham to say that about him. Well, I sure hope Congressman Max Miller of Ohio is allowed to see his baby. I don't know what's going on there. Reelected in 2022, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis delivered a victory speech in 2022, and he said Florida will lead the way in fighting the woke mob. And what is the woke mob? Well, they're people who force their viewpoints on others. They are the scolds who censor and cancel those who disagree with them. The woke mob, DeSantis and other Republicans maintain, the woke mob have no regard for freedom of speech, and they want to chill the hallmark of democracy, which is free and open debate. Headline from yesterday's Washington Post: from Angelou to Vonnegut, Florida schools pulled hundreds of books last year. So much for the First Amendment, free and open debate, right? Look, there's no question that Ron DeSantis and Moms for Liberty, with their adulteress who scanned pickup bars for threesomes with her husband, she's no longer with Moms for Liberty. But there's no question that DeSantis and Moms for Liberty are hypocrites, and they're dangerous, and they've never even read the jackets of the books they're banning. And we do have to fight them. But this is the battlefield they want us to fight on. It's a trick. Get us to defend this hill so we don't fight for what they're really fighting for. They don't care if your children read 1984 or A is for activists. They couldn't care less. This is the fight they want to have with us, because they don't want us to fight them on their battlefield that they care about, protecting the for-profit healthcare industry, the fossil fuel industry, and the billionaires who don't want to fund our public schools. While they're banning books, it's in Sun Tzu's The Art of War. They're practicing the art of war. Fight your enemy on the battlefield you want to fight your enemy on. So while they're banning books, and we need to stop them, we need to rise up in support of Medicare for all. We need to make them fight on the battlefield that keeps fossil fuels in the ground. We need to fight them on the battlefield that taxes billionaires out of existence. Why would you fight Rommel in Africa when Hitler is bombing Buckingham Palace? That's what my grandmother said to Winston Churchill. My grandmother was Winston Churchill's mistress. And she used to say, why are you fighting Rommel in Africa when Hitler is bombing Buckingham Palace? And he said, I'm fighting him on the battlefield we can win. We have to wait for the Russians to do. This is what Winston Churchill told. This was pillow talk with my grandmother, who slept with Winston Churchill. He said, let's let the Russians do all the hard work, and then we'll come in. Let the Russians soften the Germans up. We'll hang out in Africa, and then we'll waltz in after Stalin's done most of the heavy lifting. That's what Winston Churchill told my grandmother in bed. Look, there are a million, and that's true. By the way, my grandmother was Winston Churchill's mistress. And they had a baby together, and the baby did not look like Winston Churchill. Interesting piece of trivia there. Yes, we need to fight book banning because it demonstrates their hypocrisy. It's a weapon to use against them. And this is a fight parents must take before their local school boards, absolutely. But don't lose sight of the much bigger problem. This country is controlled by billionaires who want us fighting among ourselves over cultural issues instead of economic ones. Because if we're going to fight over economic issues, we all know who the enemy is. And it's not each other's. Not each other. It's the billionaires who control the Republican Party and, I hate to break it to you, a large wing of the Democratic Party. The billionaires, Mark Cuban, who was warming up the crowd for Kamala Harris, for some reason didn't energize the base. Mark Cuban, multi-billionaire. For some reason, the working class, the working poor, the poor who vote, they don't like to take marching orders from Mark Cuban when it comes to politics. For some reason, they don't think he's looking out for their best interests. For some reason, they think Mark Cuban, billionaire, is hiding behind cultural issues that are important, but using cultural issues as a smokescreen so the Democratic Party doesn't help the working class, the working poor, and the poor. Medicare for all, climate change, tax billionaires out of existence. And yes, that's part of the culture wars, by the way. If you create a tax structure that grabs anything over $1 billion, it's not going to balance the budget. but it will get the money out of politics. And you get the money out of politics, you get it out of government. I'm a Democrat. There's strength in numbers. But the message is clear. Democrats stayed home. They stayed home on November 5th. We are not going to win elections focusing solely on cultural issues unless those cultural issues are also wrapped around economic issues. Being poor is an identity. Being middle class is an identity. Being working poor is an identity. Of course, I support the transgender community. I'm woke. I'm woke. The marginalized must be protected and supported. And one of the most effective ways to protect and support marginalized communities is ending discrimination, as well as giving them free health care, free tuition at any public university, protecting them from police violence, climate violence, and corporate predatory greed that extracts wealth from all citizens. That's how you save the Democratic Party, democracy, this country, and the world. I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak. Pick up some garbage over at shopdavidfeldman.com, like this mugshot of Donald Trump. Remember that? That trial isn't over down in Fulton County. You might want to pick up this souvenir from the 1929 inaugural ball. Don't Melania and Donald Trump look happy? And it's not too soon. 2028 is right around the corner. Pick up your Trump 2028 campaign mug. Are you heading to the inauguration? Pick up the official Trump fart filtration mask. It's what the pros use. Now, they stormed the Capitol with an appeal to heaven flag. This is the flag that they carried into the Capitol on January 6th, along with the Confederate flag. And it's also a flag that Samuel Alito's unhinged wife flew outside their vacation home in New Jersey. It's a flag that stands outside our unhinged speaker's office, Mike Johnson. Well, why not pick up an appeal to these nuts flag over at shopdavidfeldman.com? It signals a nation in distress. An appeal to these nuts. Let's conquer the 7 mountains of our society with an appeal to these nuts flag. Cassidy is modeling my Still a Democrat t-shirt. You can get it as a coffee mug. Or that's it. That's all we got. That's it. I thought I would show you the... The Donald Trump and Edvard Munch's The Scream. And, of course, disabuse me of the notion that I've cultivated a sophisticated audience by picking up for Thanksgiving the I Hope You're in the Mood for Diarrhea Chef's Apron. Thank you to Bob and Mila in the chat room for keeping the conversation civilized. Thank you to everybody who leaves comments. I read all your comments. And thank you. If you have any corrections, let me know. Please share this episode. Please like it. Please Please subscribe to my channel and my newsletter. And I'm really not interested in defeatism. It doesn't help. I understand you're sad, depressed. I understand it. There's like a death in the family. But they want you to feel frightened. You're doing their work for them when you're frightened or when you say things like, I give up. It's pointless. That's what they want. You're doing their work. That's what terrorism is. Terrorism is getting inside your head. Don't do their work for them. We stopped them in 2017. We accomplished a ton of stuff under the Biden administration. We can protect our accomplishments. Go check out Indivisible. Go check out Indivisible. Fear, cowardice, it's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. It's okay to be afraid. It's all okay to be a coward. That's who I am. But it just doesn't cut it. I will see. I don't know what I'm going to do. I probably need 2 days off. I may do a show 2 a.m. Sunday morning, 2:30 Sunday morning, but it's going to be, I have notes, and I'm worried it's going to be a lot of pontificating. So I'm not sure. If not, I don't know. I need 2 days off in a row, but now is not the time. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you for letting me do this.